I pulled a double shift on my anniversary and came home to an empty garage. My dad tossed me the keys to my sister's new car and said, "We sold yours." She offered a head start. Then he smirked. "Oh, and you'll be paying her tuition too, $7,200 by Monday." I just nodded, packed my stuff, left without a word. But before I closed the door, I dropped off one folder. I, 29M, pulled into the driveway at 11:47 p.m., my body aching from 16 hours straight at the hospital. The double shift had been brutal, back-to-back emergencies that left me running on fumes and stale coffee. But I'd done it. The overtime pay would cover the final payment on my wife's engagement ring, the one I'd been slowly buying back from the pawn shop after her sister needed emergency dental work last year. It was our 5th anniversary. My wife knew about the shift. She'd kissed me that morning, told me she understood, said we'd celebrate tomorrow instead. I'd felt guilty leaving her alone on our day, but she'd seemed fine with it. More than fine, actually. Almost eager for me to go. The garage door was open. Empty. My car, the Honda Civic I'd bought with my first paycheck as a resident, was gone. Just an oil stain on the concrete where it should have been. I sat there for a moment, engine idling, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Had it been stolen? Had there been an emergency? I parked my wife's car in the driveway and walked toward the house. The living room lights were on. Through the window, I could see movement. My father-in-law sat in my recliner, the one I'd saved for months to buy. He was drinking from my whiskey bottle, the expensive one I'd been saving. My wife sat on the couch next to her mother. Her younger sister, 20 years old, still in college, lounged across the love seat like she owned the place. They were all laughing about something. I opened the door. The laughter stopped. My father-in-law stood up, and before I could even ask about my car, he tossed something at me. I caught it reflexively. Car keys. Not mine. He told me they'd sold my car. Said my sister-in-law had made them an offer they couldn't refuse, and she'd been kind enough to give them a head start on the paperwork. Sold it this afternoon for $8,000. Cash deal. Already processed. I stood there, keys digging into my palm, trying to process his words. My car. The one I'd paid off 3 years ago. The one in my name, with my insurance, my registration. My wife finally spoke up. She said her sister needed a reliable car for her new internship 2 states over. Said my car was perfect, good mileage, well-maintained, dependable. Said I could use her sister's old car now, the Toyota with the cracked windshield and the engine light that had been on for 6 months. Fair trade, she called it. I asked how they'd sold my car without my signature. My mother-in-law waved her hand dismissively. Said my wife had power of attorney for emergencies. Said this counted because her daughter's future was at stake. My wife nodded, said she'd forged my signature before, for other things, smaller things, and I'd never minded. Said I was being selfish making this a big deal. Then my father-in-law dropped the real bomb. He told me I'd be covering my sister-in-law's tuition for next semester. $7,200. Due by Monday. 3 days away. He said since I was family now, since I made good money as a doctor, it was my responsibility to help. Said her financial aid had fallen through, and someone needed to step up. Said I was that someone. I asked what happened to the $8,000 from my car. My sister-in-law laughed. Said she'd already spent it. New laptop, new clothes for her internship, deposit on an apartment near her college. Said she deserved it after driving that clunker for 2 years. Said I should be grateful she'd even left me her old car. My wife touched my arm. Told me not to be dramatic. Reminded me that marriage was about sacrifice, about family. Asked if I really loved her, because if I did, this wouldn't be an issue. Her parents nodded along. I looked at the 3 of them. My wife, who I'd worked 60-hour weeks to support through her master's degree. Her parents, who'd moved into our guest room temporarily 8 months ago and never left. Her sister, who'd borrowed money from me 4 times in the past year and never paid back a cent. I nodded. They smiled, relieved. My father-in-law clapped me on the shoulder, told me I was a good man. Said he knew I'd see reason. Poured himself another glass of my whiskey. I walked upstairs to our bedroom. Pulled out my duffel bag from the closet. Started packing. Clothes, toiletries, important documents. My hands moved mechanically while my brain caught up to what my body already knew. My wife followed me up. Asked what I was doing. I told her I was leaving. She laughed, said I was being childish, said I'd be back by morning once I cooled off. Said I always came back. She wasn't wrong. I'd come back before. 3 months ago, when I'd found out she'd taken out a credit card in my name without asking. 6 months before that, when she'd promised her parents they could retire early because I'd support them. A year ago, when she'd given her sister $5,000 from our savings without telling me. I'd always come back. Always talked myself into staying. Always believed her when she said it would be different. But something was different this time. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was coming home to find my car gone on our anniversary. Maybe it was the casual way they'd all sat there, drinking my whiskey, laughing about how easy it had been. I zipped up the duffel bag, grabbed my laptop case. My wife's voice got higher, more desperate. She said I couldn't leave, said I was overreacting, said her parents would be so disappointed. Said what would people think? I walked past her, down the stairs. Her parents stood at the bottom, blocking my path. Her father asked where I thought I was going. Said I had responsibilities. Said I couldn't just walk away from my wife, from my family. I asked him when he'd last paid rent. Asked him when he planned to move out. Asked him if he'd spent any of his retirement savings or if he'd just decided to retire on my dime. He sputtered, told me I was being disrespectful. My mother-in-law started crying, said I was breaking her daughter's heart. My sister-in-law appeared from the kitchen, phone in hand. Told me she'd already posted about her new car on social media. Showed me the pictures, my car, with her posing next to it, caption about family coming through in clutch moments. 300 likes already. I moved past them toward the door. My wife grabbed my arm, harder this time. Asked where I'd even go. Reminded me this was my house, my mortgage. Said I couldn't abandon my own home. I told her she was right. This was my house, my mortgage, my name on the deed, only my name, because we'd bought it before the wedding with my down payment, and I'd never added her despite her asking. Her face changed then, paled. She asked what I meant. I told her I'd be back in a week. Said she and her family needed to be gone by then. All of them. Out of my house. I'd already texted my lawyer from the car, sent him everything he needed to start divorce proceedings. Found him during a bathroom break at the hospital, actually. Efficient guy. Already had the papers drawn up, just needed my signature. My father-in-law said I couldn't kick them out. Said they had rights. Squatters' rights. I reminded him they'd been guests for 8 months. Never paid rent. Never signed a lease. Had no legal claim to my property. Said I'd already called the police non-emergency line, explained the situation. They'd advised me that I could legally ask them to leave and, if they refused, file for eviction. But they'd also mentioned that since they'd never established tenancy, a simple trespass warning might suffice. My mother-in-law asked how I could be so cruel. Said family didn't treat each other this way. I agreed. Family didn't steal each other's cars. Didn't forge signatures. Didn't demand money with 3 days' notice. I walked to my home office. They followed me like a parade of outrage. I grabbed a folder from my desk drawer. Manila. Thin. I'd assembled it over the past 3 months, during those nights when I couldn't sleep, when something in my gut kept telling me to pay attention. I handed it to my wife. Told her she might want to look at it before Monday. Then turned and walked out. She called after me, demanding to know what was in the folder. I didn't answer. Just got into the piece of shit Toyota with the cracked windshield, the one that was now supposedly mine, and drove away. Update 1. I'm writing this from a hotel room. Not a fancy one, just a Holiday Inn off the highway. But it's quiet. Clean. Mine. No one here demands anything from me. No one here has their hand out or a sob story ready. Just me, a decent mattress, and the first full night's sleep I've had in months. The folder. Everyone's been asking about the folder. I suppose that's the part that matters. 3 months ago, I got suspicious. Not about infidelity. I genuinely never thought my wife would cheat. But about money. We were drowning financially despite my salary, and nothing added up. I made good money as a hospitalist. Not surgeon money, but comfortable. We should have been fine. So I started checking. Bank statements. Credit card bills. Transaction histories. What I found was worse than I'd imagined. My wife had opened 4 credit cards in my name over the past 2 years. Total debt, $43,000. Cash advances mostly. Some luxury purchases, bags, shoes, spa days. But mostly cash that went straight into her personal account and then disappeared. Transferred to her parents. Loaned to her sister. Spent on God knows what. She'd also refinanced our house without telling me. Took out $60,000 in equity. I'd never seen a dime. When I dug deeper, I found out it had gone to her father's failed business venture, some cryptocurrency scheme that collapsed in 3 weeks. The power of attorney she'd mentioned? I'd never signed one. She'd forged that too. I found it in her desk last month. My signature, but not my handwriting. Close, but not perfect. She'd practiced on old birthday cards, apparently. I found those too. But the worst part, the thing that made me finally put together the folder, was what I'd discovered 2 weeks ago. My wife had been talking to a divorce attorney. Not to leave me. To figure out how to maximize what she'd get when she eventually did leave me. The consultation notes were in her email. I hadn't meant to snoop, but she'd left her laptop open, and the email notification had popped up right as I walked by. She'd asked about asset division, about alimony, about whether my retirement accounts were fair game. The attorney had advised her to establish greater financial entanglement, to make sure she could claim she'd contributed to our lifestyle, to position herself for the best possible settlement. That's when I understood. The car thing wasn't random. It was a test. She was seeing how far she could push, how much she could take, whether I'd fight back or just accept it. If I'd paid that tuition bill, if I'd accepted the car swap, she'd have known I was beaten. Controllable. The kind of husband who'd hand over half his retirement without a fight when she finally decided to pull the trigger. The folder contained copies of everything. The forged power of attorney. The credit card statements. The refinancing paperwork. The emails with her divorce attorney. Screenshots of her sister's social media posts about all the gifts I'd given her. Evidence that the money transfers weren't loans but gifts, which meant they'd count as dissipation of marital assets. I'd also included something else. My own consultation notes from a different divorce attorney. One who'd advised me that, given the evidence of fraud and forgery, I had grounds not just for divorce, but for potential criminal charges. That my wife had committed multiple felonies. That her parents could be considered accessories if they'd knowingly benefited from forged documents. My attorney had suggested I file a police report. I'd held off, hoping I was wrong, hoping there was an explanation. But after tonight, after watching them all laugh about stealing my car, after being told I'd be funding my sister-in-law's education like it was a foregone conclusion, I was done hoping. The folder also contained a letter. Simple, direct. It explained that I had evidence of multiple felonies, that I would be pursuing criminal charges unless certain conditions were met. The conditions were straightforward: immediate return of my car or its full market value, $12,000, not the $8,000 they'd claimed, return of all money taken via the fraudulent credit cards, and vacation of my house within 7 days. If these conditions were met, I'd pursue only divorce, not criminal charges. Her parents and sister could walk away clean. If the conditions weren't met, I'd file police reports Monday morning. Let the chips fall where they may. I texted my attorney from the hotel, told him to proceed with everything. He said he'd have the papers served tomorrow, Saturday. The folder would give my wife the weekend to decide how she wanted this to play out. My phone has been exploding. Texts from my wife, calls from her parents, voicemails from her sister. I haven't responded to any of them. There's nothing left to say. One text from my wife stood out though. She said I'd regret this. Said she'd take me for everything. Said her attorney was better than mine, and by the time she was done, I'd be lucky to keep my medical license. I almost laughed. Her attorney had no idea about the fraud, had been operating under the assumption that our finances were clean, that any asset division would be straightforward. Once my attorney filed the police reports and provided evidence of the forgery, her attorney would drop her faster than a hot potato. No attorney wants to defend a client who's provably committed fraud against their spouse. My father-in-law left a voicemail asking if I really wanted to put his daughter in jail. Said family forgave each other. Said I was being vindictive. I saved that voicemail. Might need it later. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with my attorney again. We're going to finalize everything. File the police reports. Serve the divorce papers. Freeze the joint accounts before anything else disappears. I'm also going to put the house on the market. I don't want to live there anymore. Too many memories. All of them bad. A buddy from medical school texted me after I'd called him from the road. Told him the bare bones of what happened. He said I could crash at his place instead of burning money on hotels. His wife said they had a guest room. Decent people. The kind who don't steal your car and call it family bonding. I think I'll take them up on it. The panic and guilt I expected to feel hasn't come. Instead, there's just relief. Like I've been holding my breath underwater for 5 years and finally broke the surface. My chest doesn't hurt anymore. The tension in my shoulders is gone. For the first time in longer than I can remember, I feel like myself. I keep thinking about what my wife said, that I always came back. She was right. I'd trained her to believe I always would. That I'd accept anything, forgive anything, pay for anything. I'd made myself a doormat and then wondered why people kept wiping their feet on me. Not anymore. Update 2. It's been 4 days. Monday morning. I'm sitting in my attorney's office, and the fallout is worse than I'd anticipated, but also better. Let me explain. Saturday morning, my attorney served the divorce papers. My wife answered the door in her pajamas, completely unprepared. The process server said she went white as a sheet, asked if it was a joke. He told her it wasn't. She tried to refuse the papers. Doesn't work that way. He left them on the porch, took a photo, and left. Legal service complete. By Saturday afternoon, my phone was a disaster. 37 missed calls. 63 text messages. My wife, her parents, her sister, even some of her cousins I'd met maybe twice. All of them demanding I come home, call them back, stop being crazy. I didn't respond to any of them. Sunday morning, my wife showed up at my friend's house. I have no idea how she found me. Probably called everyone she could think of until someone cracked. She banged on the door at 7 a.m., screaming that we needed to talk. My friend's wife called the police. My wife left before they arrived, but not before shouting through the door that I was ruining her life, that I'd be sorry, that she'd make sure I lost everything. The police showed up anyway. Took a report. Asked if I wanted a restraining order. I said not yet, but I might need one soon. They gave me the paperwork. Told me to call if she came back. Sunday afternoon, things shifted. My sister-in-law called. Not from her number, from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. She was crying. Not the manipulative crying I'd heard before, but genuine, panicked sobbing. She told me the police had come to my house. Not about the trespassing, about the fraud. Apparently, my attorney had filed the reports Friday afternoon, and the detectives had worked fast. They'd interviewed my wife Saturday evening, seized her laptop and phone, interviewed her parents Sunday morning. My sister-in-law said the detectives wanted to talk to her too. Asked if she'd known the power of attorney was forged. If she'd known the credit cards weren't legitimate. If she'd known the car sale was illegal. She swore she didn't know anything. Said she'd thought everything was legal. Said her sister had told her I'd agreed to everything. I asked if the detectives believed her. She didn't know. She was terrified. Asked if I was really going to press charges. Begged me not to. Said she'd give the car back. Said she was sorry. Said she'd made a mistake trusting her sister. I told her the car had been illegally sold. That she'd need to return it to avoid being charged as an accessory to theft. That she should get her own attorney, separate from my wife's. That anything she'd received from my wife in the past 2 years might be considered proceeds of fraud. She started hyperventilating. I felt a little bad, but only a little. She was 20 years old, not 12. Old enough to know you don't just take someone's car without their permission, family or not. After I hung up, my attorney called. The police had moved faster than expected. They'd found evidence on my wife's devices, the practice signatures, the emails about maximizing a divorce settlement, transaction records showing she'd known the credit cards were fraudulent. They'd also found text messages between her and her mother discussing the fraud, joking about how I'd never notice, calling me a doormat and a meal ticket. My attorney said the DA was likely to file charges. Multiple counts of forgery, identity theft, credit card fraud, maybe more. My wife was looking at potential jail time. Her parents might face charges too. Accessory after the fact. Conspiracy. They'd knowingly benefited from the fraud. The $60,000 from the refinancing went to them. That made them part of it. He asked if I wanted to back off. Said I could still drop it, just pursue the divorce and civil damages. Said criminal charges would make everything messier. I thought about it. Really thought about it. My wife was 28 years old. A criminal record would destroy her career prospects. Her parents were in their 50s. Jail time at their age would be devastating. But then I thought about how they'd sat in my living room, drinking my whiskey, laughing about how easy it had been to steal from me. About my wife's text saying she'd take me for everything. About my father-in-law asking if I really wanted to put his daughter in jail, like I was the villain here. I told my attorney to proceed. Full criminal charges. No mercy. He nodded. Said he'd update the DA. This morning, I got a call from my wife's attorney. He wanted to negotiate. Said his client was willing to return everything. The car, the money, all of it. Said she'd pay restitution for the credit card debt. Said she'd sign any divorce terms I wanted, no contest. In exchange, I dropped the criminal charges. I told him I'd think about it. Hung up. Called my attorney. He said it was my choice. That the DA might proceed anyway if they thought the case was strong enough, but my cooperation would make it easier. Without me, it would be harder to prove damages, harder to show intent. I told him I wanted 48 hours to think about it. What I didn't tell him was that I'd already made up my mind. I just wanted my wife to sweat. Wanted her to spend 2 days wondering if she was going to jail. Wanted her to feel a fraction of the panic and helplessness I'd felt standing in that garage, realizing my car was gone. My friend's wife made dinner tonight. Simple pasta dish, nothing fancy. We sat around their table, talking about normal things. Their kids, work, the weather. No one demanded anything from me. No one needed money or favors or sacrifices. It felt surreal. This was what normal felt like. What family was supposed to feel like. My friend asked what I was going to do. About the charges. About my wife. I told him I didn't know yet. That was a lie. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I was going to let her suffer for 2 days. Then I was going to take the deal. Get my money back. Get my car back. Get the divorce finalized. Walk away clean. Not because I forgave her. Not because I felt sorry for her. But because I wanted to move on. Criminal charges would drag this out for months, maybe years. Trials. Testimonies. Appeals. I'd be tied to her. To this mess, indefinitely. I wanted out. Completely out. And the fastest way out was through restitution and a clean divorce. But she didn't need to know that yet. She could spend 2 more days wondering if her life was about to implode. Seemed fair. I'd spent 5 years watching mine slowly collapse. My phone buzzed. Another text from my wife. Apologizing. Begging. Promising to change. Saying she loved me. I deleted it without reading the whole thing. I'd heard it all before. Tomorrow, I'd give my answer. But tonight, I was going to sleep well. In a guest room that didn't feel like a prison. In a house where no one was scheming to take what little I had left. Tonight, for the first time in years, I felt free. And that was worth more than any revenge. If you like this story, please like this video and subscribe us for more such real-life-based stories. Thanks in advance.